Hello everyone. It's been a while since I've made a video like this, and honestly I wanted to kind of get out of making these types of videos because I ultimately felt like there wasn't a lot of point to them. I wanted to sort of be one of these vloggers who kind of expresses their opinions and has a whole bunch of people watch them and comment on them, but really I don't get a lot of views, and one of my problems of course is that I tend to ramble on for too long. I've just started, but I already know, I'm already guessing, I already know without going any further that this video is easily going to go on for close to an hour. It may even go over an hour. I don't know how long it'll be. But I wanted to come back and kind of say, something now and then, just because I thought that, I don't know, sometimes people want to express themselves, and it's kind of my style to not do anything quickly. I'm sort of the person who wants to think about things and take things slowly and a little bit cautiously, so I know that this video is going to be long. Some of you probably won't want to watch some guy talking for an hour, and that's fine. I mean, if you don't want to sit through just watching me talk for an hour, that's fine. I understand. I mean, that's certainly reasonable. I think this video will probably get like a couple of hundred views, as opposed to, some other videos on this subject which could easily get 2 million views. But anyway, so apologies in advance for what will probably be a very long video, but I hope that I hope that at least somebody will find some value in what I have to say. I want to say also that what I'm going to talk about is obviously very controversial. If you've seen the video title, you probably already know what this is about, so I'd like to ask everybody, if you're going to watch the video and if you're going to comment or think about it, I'd like to ask everyone to be adults, obviously, and not post all manner of silliness or personal attacks or grandstanding or anything else like that. You're welcome to comment. I was thinking of actually turning on comment approval, meaning that I would need to approve comments before they show up on the video, but I think I'm not going to do that just because I don't want to be like the grand dictator who tells people what they can and can't say. I may go that route if it gets really bad, but I'd like to kind of leave the comments open and allow people to have their say and say whatever they wish. So, yeah, I do have some notes. If you see me looking down occasionally, I'm not reading off a script, but I did write out some bullet points. So I think that's the system that seems to work pretty well for me. I'll write down just like maybe a half dozen lines of points explaining the things that I want to talk about, and then after that I'll just kind of take it from there and just talk about those things in order. So I don't want to just be reading off like a pre-written script, because that gets boring really fast. I think that that doesn't it just doesn't come across very well most of the time when people do that. But at the same time, I don't want to forget anything. I don't want to forget an important point that I might want to discuss. So I basically just wrote out all the points that I want to address, and I'll be referring to that from time to time. Other than that, I'm just ad-libbing as I go, which I think makes things more interesting. So, topic of discussion. Why do some people say that atheism is a religion? And why do some people disagree with that? First of all, I guess this is really a matter of terms. I mean, it depends on how you define a religion. Now, most atheists who I have talked to or seen or heard talk about this insist that atheism is not a religion in the most obvious way, because a religion is a belief in a god, obviously. I mean, that's basically what a religion is, right? It's the worship or observation of worship to some deity, some god who watches over us. And atheism is by definition, the absence of belief in God or gods. So how can atheism be a religion? It's very specifically defined as the opposite of religion. So again, I say, what is a religion? I mean, what exactly does that word mean? In the most literal sense, yes, it means belief in a god or gods. But a religion is also a personal ideology. To just give you an example, I have heard some people say things like exercise or fitness is my religion. Now, obviously, they don't mean that they think that there's some exercise god who's, giving them blessings or something. They just mean it's sort of, it's something that gives them meaning. At some companies that I've worked for, or that I've, heard of other people working for, there may be a new product or something like that which the company is anticipating releasing soon, and some people might say this new product is like a religion for us because people take it so seriously. So, a religion doesn't have to be something, I mean, in the most literal sense, yes, religion is belief in God, but metaphorically speaking, sort of figuratively speaking, a religion is a system of belief. A religion is something that people believe in very strongly, and which maybe gives them a meaning of life. It kind of gives them a purpose in life. And this is true for atheism. I mean, I have talked to people who say that atheism is their favorite subject. I remember once talking to a guy, and he was quite a literary man, and so I asked him, what have you been reading lately? And he said, well, I've been reading some things about atheism, my favorite subject. Now, atheism, it's more than one thing. I mean, atheism, I guess, commonly is divided into two things. First of all, atheism can be the lack of belief in a god, which I think, forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, but I believe that's what you'd call soft atheism. And that's simply lack of belief. Distinct from that, and kind of contrasted with that, is hard atheism, which is not simply a lack of belief, but kind of active belief that there is no God. So there's a difference between soft atheism, which some people might say is kind of the same as agnosticism, kind of you're not sure, you're not really committed one way or the other, you don't really know, you think that we don't really know if there's a God or not. And then there's like really sort of hardcore, in some cases even kind of militant atheism that there is no God. I am convinced beyond doubt that there is no God. Now that is a belief. What's important to understand is that is a belief. It's not a belief in God, it's a belief in no God, or the belief in the absence of a God, but it's still a belief. It's still something that some people will defend very strongly. It's something that people, form social groups over and publications about, just like they do with churches. I mean, a church is like a social club for theists, right? So atheists also have their own sort of clubs that they gather in, and literature and ideas that they exchange and so on. But religion is also, besides that, there are certain ideas about religion that are prevalent, like the idea that religion is very, I guess you could say kind of tyrannical, in the sense that if you don't agree with it, then you're a bad person. This is sort of the stereotype of the fiery preacher who tells you that you're going to hell if you don't accept these ideas. So, religion is often associated with being very sort of narrow-minded, sort of intolerant of any views that might contradict your religion. And this is something that also applies to atheism, because there are many atheists who are not tolerant of theists, and they say, they may say, for example, I've heard people say, if you're a creationist, then you are a stupid idiot. I think that's kind of a subjective statement. I've known many creationists who probably were not the brightest crayons in the box, but I have also known creationists who were actually quite intelligent and who I don't think it would be fair to call idiots. They were not idiots in spite of their religious beliefs. So a religion can be defined as a sort of a club, like a club of people who hold a certain mindset, a certain belief. And a religion is a grounds for exclusion or ostracization of people. If you don't agree with what I believe, then you're a bad person and I don't want to talk to you. And atheism does this. That's the thing. That's what a lot of people, surprisingly many people actually, to my mind anyway, to my perception, don't really acknowledge or realize. Atheism is a thing that people are excluded on. You know, it used to be that maybe 100 years ago in very conservative sort of Christian areas, if you said, I don't believe in a God, you were an outcast. You were like a bad person. People would say, what kind of person are you who doesn't believe in God? Today, atheism has become sort of a fad. Like, it's kind of the current fad religion in the sense that atheists do the same thing. Atheists say, look, if you believe in like some invisible man in the sky who's watching down on us, then you're just an idiot. I mean, why would I want to talk to you? You obviously are completely ignorant and brainwashed. So atheism has also become an avenue for prejudice and social exclusion, and probably other kinds of exclusion as well. So that's what people mean when they say that atheism is a religion. It's not a belief in a God, but it is an ideological clique, you might say. It is an exclusive group. It is a very, at times it can be, obviously it's not always the case, but it can be a very, very judgmental and a very, very harshly judgmental group towards people who don't agree with its values and its teachings. And that's what people mean when they say atheism is a religion. I guess that addresses the fundamental point of the video. That's why people say that, again, it's a figure of speech. It doesn't mean that atheism is literally religion, but that kind of explains what people mean when they figuratively talk about atheism as being a religion, as being a narrow-minded, closed-minded, prejudiced sort of way to cast stones at people, so to speak. But I did have a few other points that I wanted to add to that. Let's see. I'm just going over my notes. Yeah, one thing also that I did want to point out is sort of the double standard that exists with regard to this today. I hear a lot of people say, and probably justifiably so in most cases, that you shouldn't try to push your religion on other people, that it's not right to try and force someone to agree with you. You can't get in somebody's face and say, hey, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal savior? If not, why not? What's wrong with you? Tell me what's up with that. But it's okay, or it seems to be okay, to do the same with atheism. It seems to be okay for an atheist to say, look, don't you know that the universe is billions of years old and that there's no invisible man in the sky looking after us? And come on, answer me. What kind of idiot are you? Don't you know that this is the truth? And that seems to be okay. That seems to be quite accepted in our society today for people to say that and to try to push their atheism on other people and, make people very uncomfortable and very sort of, again, excluded or kind of social outcasts if they don't accept the dogma of atheism. Atheism is, in many cases, another dogma. Just like religion is sometimes a dogma, atheism is also often a dogma that people are just expected to accept without question and without any further process. And if they don't, then they are bad people. They are ignorant or not enlightened. So again, that's sort of a hallmark of religious thinking, which we see today in the modern sort of, as I say, militant atheism. And as I said, atheism is kind of, it seems like kind of a fad. I mean, it kind of, there are trends and popular sort of social waves or cycles that happen from one generation to another, and we're sort of in a generation that thinks that that atheism is really cool and that it's really awesome to be aggressive about it. And I don't know if there's going to be a backlash against that. Maybe the next generation will kind of form a backlash against that and say we want to be religious because our parents hate it. It used to be, I mean, there was sort of this classical idea that kids would like study the occult or Satanism or stuff like that just to piss off their parents because their parents were conservative Christians, and we may in the future sort of be seeing something exactly the opposite, because a lot of people today, atheism is actually starting to become the majority religion or lack of religion in some countries. And so we may start actually seeing a situation where the inverse happens, where kids actually want to become Christians just to annoy their parents, just to kind of rebel against their parental authority, which would be an interesting inversion. But yeah, one thing I do want to talk about it though is that sort of inversion that's happening, because this idea of atheist supremacy and this sort of prejudice and discrimination against theists, against the sort of traditional ruling class, so to speak, is not limited to religion, of course. What's the other big issue, like the other really big sort of social political issue that's that people fight about a lot today? Gay rights, especially gay marriage, of course. And I'm seeing exactly the same thing here. Now, I'm not going to talk about gay rights or gay marriage. That's not what this video is about. That's a whole other thing that I don't even want to talk about, because that's been talked about too much already, and it's going to start a huge firestorm of controversy, which I don't want to get into. That's not what I'm talking about. But kind of tangential to that is how people are treated if they don't embrace the gay rights movement. Now, I have seen a lot of people, obviously, who oppose gay marriage. That's a fact. I mean, there are lots of people who still believe in the idea of so-called traditional marriage. What I find very interesting is that it seems to be acceptable to throw personal attacks at those people. So you'll see somebody say, well, I don't believe in gay marriage. And then it seems to be okay for gay rights groups to attack that person and kind of say, well, you're a bad person, basically, that you're a narrow-minded bigot. A good example of that, I think, was a very public example of that was I don't know how much attention this got internationally. Most Americans will recognize this immediately if I start talking about it. Unfortunately, I don't remember her name. I want to say it was Carrie Prejean. Was that her name? This beauty pageant contest, who was in, she was in some teen beauty pageant or whatever. And Perez Hilton, the infamous celebrity gossip columnist, was at this beauty pageant. He was like a celebrity judge, and he asked this woman her opinion on gay marriage. And so she explained, well, I was raised in a system of values that believes that marriage is between a man and a woman. And, okay, that's maybe biased or prejudiced or whatever. But what I thought was very interesting was, again, those of you familiar with the story already know what happened. What ended up happening is Perez called her, not to her face. I mean, in the context of the pageant, he just sat down and didn't say anything because I guess he didn't want to make a scene. But later on, when writing a column about it, of course, he called this woman a dumb bitch because she didn't, she didn't believe in gay marriage. Now, that's not okay. It's not okay to say something like that to someone, especially when they haven't provoked you first. I mean, regardless of what this beauty pageant contestant said, the reality was, if you watch the video of the exchange between her and Perez Hilton, she was quite civil about it. I mean, maybe the things she said were, prejudiced or whatever, sure, but she was very polite about it. She explained, I was raised in this system of values. My family taught me to believe this. And she didn't, she was polite about it. She was, I think, very civil. And regardless of, your opinions of what she was saying, I think that she was pretty fair about it. I mean, she explained that this is what I believe. And Perez Hilton kind of took the low ground and went for a personal attack. And yet, the outcome of that was that most people attacked her and said she's spreading hate and intolerance and prejudice and all this. And Perez Hilton, well, maybe he shouldn't have said that, but that's okay because he did it for a good cause. He was standing up for what's right. So, this is sort of an inversion of the old formula. It used to be that gays were hated and oppressed, and the violence against gays throughout history has been terrible. I mean, I won't deny there's been some horrible things that have been done to people for being gay, and that's unfortunate. But we're in the opposite situation now, where if somebody doesn't wholeheartedly embrace the whole gay scene, if somebody doesn't advocate gay rights or kind of says, well, I don't believe in that, then it's okay to attack them. They are the enemy, they're a bad person, they are, they're spreading hate and prejudice and intolerance, and it's okay to call them a bitch or stupid or whatever you want because they're an open target. Let me ask you, in the light of all that, let me pose a question. Is that tolerance? Is this a scene that's promoting tolerance and kindness and civility toward people with, differing ideas? As far as I can see, and I mean, it's obviously kind of a rhetorical question, because the obvious answer is it is not. We're entering a world now where, I hate to say this, some people are going to hate me for saying this, and some people might take this out of context, but I'll go ahead and say it because I think it's true. The gay rights groups today are actually among the foremost proponents and purveyors of hate and intolerance and bigotry, because they promote that sort of attitude against anyone who doesn't agree with them. And I have seen many people of the young generation today, like people in their teens or early 20s, who regard gay rights as something very important to them. And that's okay. I mean, if you champion gay rights, okay, good for you. But these people take it a step further and they say, gay rights are very important to me, and if you don't support gay marriage, then get the hell away from me because I want nothing to do with you. I ask again, is that tolerance? Is that open-mindedness? I mean, I don't understand what sort of trick of the mind these people are using to honestly, seriously adopt that attitude and then have the nerve to call themselves tolerant. I'm so tolerant that here's what I believe, and if you don't agree with me, then fuck you. Don't ever talk to me again. You see how tolerant I am? You see how open-minded I am? I'm going to expect that you will agree with me. And if you don't, then, boy, you're just a stupid idiot. Can't you see that I'm right? I'm sorry. I'm not okay with that. It's sort of... it's basically... It's reverse discrimination. Like I say, the picture has sort of been flipped around. And you know, you hear about this idea of reverse racism as well. Even Martin Luther King Jr. Sort of advocated the idea of a reverse prejudice. And forgive me, I have great respect for Dr. King and his work, but I just can't agree with him on this point. This is, you know, how people say that two wrongs don't make a right. This is what they mean. You can't fix something by, you know, making it wrong in the opposite direction. I mean, prejudice is still prejudice. And yes, you know, Africans were slaves in the United States for a long time, and that's unfortunate. Obviously, that shouldn't have happened and all that, but you can't fix that by now saying, we'll give black people more privileges than white people. Let's, you know, discriminate in the opposite direction for a while, and that'll kind of even things out. And Martin Luther King Jr. said, I mean, he explicitly said, equality is not enough. Equality between the two races is not enough now. We need to have a reverse racism. And I'm sorry, that's not a mentality that I can accept. That's not something that that I would want to promote. I wouldn't accept that for myself, and I wouldn't commend that in other people. And it's the same for gays. There seems to be sort of this thinking among the gay community that if a person doesn't embrace gay rights, if a person doesn't, you know, agree with the gay marriage movement, then they're the enemy, and it's okay to attack them. It's okay to do whatever you want to them because they are promoting hate, and so it's okay to hate them back. Basically, it's okay to hate people who hate. Hate is bad, but it's okay to promote hate against people who are already hating. That is not a mentality that I can get behind at all. Sorry, I absolutely reject that idea. I cannot accept this idea that if another person is, you know, has some kind of wrong-minded mentality, that it's okay to throw it back at them and be that way back at them. That's this whole eye for an eye mentality. It's this sort of like idea of revenge or getting back at someone that is never, it's never constructive. It never fixes things. In the long run, it never makes a healthy, well-balanced sort of society. I can't get behind that at all. Sorry. So, I guess I'm getting close to the end now. I just want to mention also that the reality is that we all have things that we believe. You have things that that you believe in. I guess more more to the point, more specifically, we all believe things that we can't prove. Obviously, religious people believe in a God that they can't necessarily prove the existence of, but the same is true for scientists. I mean, a scientist can't prove a lot of the things that they claim. An example is I've heard a lot of atheists say that, say something like, I'll believe in this God of yours when he comes down and shakes my hand. When I see God and can talk to him, then I'll believe in God. And I sometimes respond to those people, well, you're a scientist, right? Do you believe in, for example, electrons? Have you ever seen an electron? Has an electron ever walked up to you and shook your hand and said, hi, I'm an electron? And yet you believe in them, right? And a scientist would then respond, well, sure, we can't see electrons, but we can see their effects. I mean, you can, look at all the gadgets we have. I mean, lightning, an electric light, a computer, that's all, it's electrons moving around, right? We can't see electrons, but we can see their effects. And, okay, that's true, but a theist just as readily says, well, you want to see proof of God? Look out the window. Look at the trees and the birds and the butterflies. There's your proof of God right there. Did that come from God? I mean, who's to say? I mean, who's to say that God didn't make the electrons? Maybe God made the electrons. There's this whole, there's this whole idea that maybe all the science stuff is true, but it doesn't refute the existence of God. Some people say that evolution is real, but God designed evolution, so there's still intelligent design. Yeah, evolution is real and it's true, but there was still some designer, there was still some master designer who implemented all that and created these more primitive life forms that then evolved. So we all believe things that we cannot prove. It doesn't matter whether you're a scientist or a theist or any kind of, whatever your ideology is, you, like me, have things that you think are true, but which are not provably true. And that's just our reality. That's something that we need to understand. It's sort of like Socrates said, the beginning of wisdom, or the beginning of knowledge, is to admit that you know nothing. And what he meant by that, of course, was simply that, or at least what I think he meant, I mean, my interpretation of that is that we can't be sure of anything. I mean, there are a lot of things which we have discovered about science and so on, but even scientists acknowledge what we know about science is less than what we don't know. What we don't know exceeds what we know. So, all that being the case, there are a lot of people who will just try to push their ideology because it's important to them. And this is, again, this is historically something that was associated more with religious groups. It used to be that, there was this idea that kids were being taught religious ideas in school. Kids were being taught creationism in school, and oh no, this is terrible. Children are being brainwashed into believing that some invisible man in the sky made everything. But the opposite is okay. It's okay to teach children that we evolved, even though that's not what everyone believes, but those people aren't important. I mean, who cares what they believe? We think that humans evolved, and so we'll just teach that because that's, we must be right about that, right? I mean, yeah, it's what we believe. Of course, we're right. So let's go ahead and teach that to kids and just teach them to repeat that. And so we end up with a situation where people are kind of seen as, they're almost like wind-up dolls. Those, you don't see them too much anymore. I think they were kind of, that was also kind of a fad. But remember the dolls that had the string in the back, like there was a ring attached to a string in the back of them, and you pull the string and then the doll would recite some phrase. It's almost like people are like that. Like we see people as just some sort of wind-up dolls who are supposed to repeat these you know, catchphrases. It's kind of like, it's like the thing with Perez Hilton. I'm pretty sure that Perez didn't expect the answer that he got. I think he was just expecting this woman to say, "Oh yeah, gay marriage is great. Yeah, we should promote that." And he was obviously surprised, and you know, he, I guess, kind of disappointed, and that's unfortunate. But it's just like, you know, people, like he was just expecting her to be like this wind-up doll. You can just set her up and pull the string, and she will say, "Oh, there is no God. Gay marriage should be legal." And so on, and just recite these things. And so we end up in that situation today where I actually see some people, like I meet a lot of people who believe in this new sort of more enlightened mentality, and they say, yeah, obviously there is no God, obviously religion is just a big fake. And then if you ask them about it, they'll say, like if you ask them, why do you think so? They'll say something like, oh, because I was taught that in my science class. So it's still, you know, it's still indoctrination. It's still, I mean, the school is a school for children is basically just like this factory to produce people who have been indoctrinated in whatever is the current popular mentality. So, you know, you talk to these people. It used to be, well, and it still is actually, if you talk to a theist, if you talk to like a Christian, you can often call them out by asking them about the Bible, because the truth is a lot of Christians haven't read the Bible. Most Christians have barely read the Bible, or maybe they've read just a little bit of it, but they don't know it very well. And so it's pretty easy to call out a Christian by asking them certain things from the Bible, and they won't know about it. And then you can say, well, obviously you haven't read this book that tells you what you believe, so why are you a Christian? I mean, why do you believe in all these things when you haven't even read this book that's supposed to tell you what you're supposed to know? And of course they'll say, because I was taught that way, because my family is Christian, I was raised in this Christian ideology. And again, so people become just like these wind-up dolls. They just parrot the things that they're taught to say. But the same is true on the opposite side. Now today, children are taught that, you know, they're taught all these things, and if you ask them, why do you believe that there's no God? Why do you believe in evolution? Oh, because I was told so. Because my parents, or my teacher, or my friends told me that that's what I should think. So, it's not, I don't see it as being more enlightened. I don't see it as being a higher state of thinking. We're still basically just parrots. We're just, you know, robots who are programmed to recite the things that we've been taught to recite. So I'd like to ask everyone, and whether you're a theist, you know, you could be a Christian or some other, I mean, you could be a Muslim or a Jew, you know, like a practicing Jew, or you could be an atheist or agnostic, whatever you are. I always encourage people to ask themselves, do you have reasons for what you believe? You know, have you thought about it? Do you have a reason for whatever you think about religion or politics or society or science or whatever? Or do you just believe what you believe because somebody else told you? I mean, going back to electrons, you know, if you're an atheist and you believe in science, have you ever proven to yourself that electrons exist? I mean, you probably read it in a book, and you probably believe in them. And I'm not saying I don't believe in them. I mean, I believe in electrons myself, but speaking as one person who believes in electrons, I can admit that I pretty much, you know, believe in them because I've read about them. I have read in a book or several books that electrons exist and they behave like this. They orbit around the nuclei of atoms, and, you know, the flow of electrons is what creates electricity. Okay. But I only think that, and you probably only think that because you read it in a book. And a Christian theist can just as easily say, oh, a book. Well, I also have a book which tells you that the Earth was made in 6 days. Did we do an experiment to prove that? No, we didn't. We haven't done anything to prove either theory. We've just taken it because we read it out of somewhere, and we chose to believe that book. So again, do you have reasons for what you think? And we all, like I said, we all believe in things. We all have beliefs that we cannot prove. That's something that I think is true of pretty much everyone. I think it's dangerous to make absolute statements, but I think that's true of almost everyone. And if it's not true for someone, then they're the extremely rare exception. Everyone has something that they believe, but which they can't really back up or justify or provide hard evidence for. But I'd like to just ask people, whatever you believe and whatever you think, if you're an atheist, good for you. If you're a Christian, good for you. If you if you support gay rights, good for you. If you oppose gay rights, okay, you probably have reasons for that. I mean, maybe they're not good reasons, but you probably have reasons for what you think. Or do you? That's kind of the question. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Do you have a good rationale? Do you have what has led you to what you think? So I'd kind of like to ask everyone to just kind of ask themselves that. Not only now, but I mean going into the future. I repeatedly ask myself this question. I ask myself this regularly. Why do I believe what I believe? Because I know I believe things which I can't prove. And why do I believe them? Why do I think what I think? There must be reasons, right? I mean, there must have been some kind of process that led me to what I think, so. Yeah. And the final thing that I want to talk about, I think, let me check my notes. Yes. The last thing I just want to touch on briefly is the idea of open-mindedness, because I am obviously encouraging people to be more open-minded. To me, open-mindedness, different people have different definitions of it. To me, open-mindedness doesn't mean that you will accept everything that other people say, because obviously you can't. One person will tell you there is a God, and another person will tell you there is no God. Well, they can't both be right? I mean, either there's a God or there isn't. Or, well, okay. There are people who say that God both exists and does not exist, which doesn't seem possible in our logic. I mean, logically it seems impossible, but then again, I can't prove that it's not possible. I can't prove, and neither can you, that God can't exist and not exist at the same time. Maybe God can. Okay, maybe that is possible, whatever. But I think I think most people will agree that not everything is true. Not everything that people will tell you is true. So being open-minded doesn't mean accepting whatever people tell you, but it means being willing to consider what other people tell you. I remember once I was called out somebody questioned my liberal credentials, and I'm not even sure I'd call myself a liberal. I mean, applying the label liberal to myself is kind of, well, it's a label. It may imply things that aren't intended, but anyway, so somebody questioned just how liberal I was, and they asked me, so here's a test for you. Suppose that a gay man, suppose that, you had a house and, you had a spare bedroom or whatever, and a gay man wanted to stay in your house for the night. Would you let him? Would you let him sleep in your, not in your own personal bed, but like in the guest bedroom of your house? Or a black man, if a black man, African, American, African, whatever, man wanted to sleep in your guest bedroom, would you let him? And I said, sure. If a gay man wants to wanted to stay in my house, sure, why not? Yeah. Or a black man, sure, yeah. But I didn't do it, but I could have just as well turned the question around and said, let me ask you something now. Suppose that a homophobe wanted to stay in your house for the night. Suppose that you knew a guy who maybe he had even voted against gay marriage. Maybe he had voted to protect marriage and certify that marriage is only between a man and a woman. And this guy wanted to go out to dinner with you, or, just, or was just your friend and wanted to stay in your house for the night. Would you let him? And if the answer is no, then I'm sorry, but you are the narrow-minded bigot. So, open-mindedness, to me, means being willing to at least listen to other people, at least to consider other people's points of view, to at least be honest enough and open enough to tell somebody, okay, I might disagree with you, but please tell me your reasons. You have reasons, right? Please tell me, why do you believe what you believe? Tell me what you think, and tell me what sort of thought process led you to what you think, and I'll listen. And I might not agree with you when you're done, but I'll listen. That's open-mindedness. To me, that's open-mindedness. And there's a video on YouTube which a lot of you may have seen about I think it's just called open-mindedness. Those of you who have seen the video already know what I'm talking about. It has these sort of, it's not live action, but it has these sort of cut-out characters that are talking about, I think one of them says something like, that light is moving, that's proof that there is a God. And then when somebody contradicts them, they say, hey, be more open-minded. So, there's this whole idea that open-mindedness just means being willing to accept anything. Okay, obviously that's not open-mindedness. Like I said, not everything is true. A lot of people will tell you things that are deceptive or, frankly, just flat-out lies. Okay, sure. But at least being willing to listen to people, at least being welcoming and open enough to listen to people, and not just telling people, look, we can never be friends. And I've had people say that to me. I've had people say, look, our ideologies don't match. We can never be friends. And I think that's very sad because it doesn't have to be that way. People choose to be that way. People choose to not be open to others because other people don't happen to agree with their views, and that's again, that's not okay. To me, that's not okay. I don't. I probably have a lot of things that I think which don't agree with what other people think. I think if you meet up with almost anyone, even the best of friends rarely agree on everything. You can always find something that people disagree on. You could take two people from any political party, and it's not like political parties are homogenous. I mean, it's not like every single person in the Liberal Party or the Conservative Party believes exactly the same thing. So you could take two people from the same party and find things that they fundamentally disagree on, and yet they could still work together, they could still be friends, they could still, talk together and share ideas together. But people choose to exclude others and say, look, if you are not willing to support my ideas, the ideas that are important to me, get away from me. I don't ever want to talk to you again. And I've seen people say that to others, and it's very sad. So, that is why atheism has been compared to a religion, and in the way that it makes people behave, it bears some of the earmarks of a religion. Even if it is not literally a religion, it can be metaphorically or figuratively or by analogy kind of a religious experience. I guess that's all. I guess that's all I had. Okay. Everyone is, of course, welcome to comment. And I know I went pretty long. I'm actually hoping that the length of this video will actually encourage casual commenters to not leave abusive comments, because I think that, you know, if somebody releases like a 2-minute soundbite, it makes it easy for somebody to just type off a message, lol, fag, you don't know what you're talking about, idiot. So I'm hoping that with this little more drawn out sort of thoughtful approach that that will encourage some more thoughtful comments from people. So yeah, if you actually watched all of this, then I hope it wasn't too boring. Thanks for watching, and I hope that I haven't offended anyone. I hope that my ideas have been made in a thoughtful and considerate enough way that I haven't hurt anyone's sensibilities. And if I have offended you, you're welcome to let me know. Please say so, because I don't wish to offend people. I don't want to upset people. I know I've said some things that are probably pretty controversial and which some people will probably disagree with, but I hope that it at least made sense, and that that people can find at least something to agree with. So, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope that you're all doing well. So long for now.